Welcome back to the NFL Scouting Combine in Indy. John Murphy, Steve Tasker, and our special guest, he's the man behind the Quarterback Summit in Southern California. Jordan Palmer joins us. Jordan, good to be with you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super fun.
We want to talk to you about Josh, but you do have some prospects. Josh Allen, you know who I'm talking
17,
about.
Right?
Yeah, but you have some prospects here in the Combine. Talk about some of your guys here and what you expect to see from them tonight.
Well, this is my favorite time of year, draft training. You know, January, February, March. I've always believed this, that because I was very poorly trained and very poorly prepared for this process. So I think most coaches try and help guys with things that they screwed up. But I've always believed this, that let's say that Josh started playing when he was 8, and let's say that he plays 15 years, okay? That whole career, there's really only one 3-month period where they have no teammates. They don't have any other sports they're playing like they did when they're little. They don't have school. They don't have marketing deals that they're shooting content for yet. Their buddies aren't calling them, asking them to go out. Their girlfriend's not asking them to fly home. Their parents aren't going, we haven't talked to you in forever. Right. They just they don't have teammates they got to piece together and figure out. They just can focus on themselves, right? Because even Josh right now, going into year 3, he's golfing. He's working his tail off, but he's got marketing things. He's traveled. He flew back to Buffalo the other day. So it's just never going to happen again either. And so it represents, in my opinion, the greatest opportunity through the span of your career to take a step physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so this is my favorite time of year. So got a chance to spend a lot of time with Joe Burrow from LSU, with Cole McDonald from Hawaii, Steven Montez from Colorado, and Jordan Love from Utah State, and a bunch of other pass catchers too, a bunch of receivers, tight ends, and running backs. And so it represents a great opportunity to help these guys, and it's been a blast. And I've never, because I haven't worked with this many receivers before, I've never been so excited to get to Indy and watch these guys perform in 2 hours.
We're going to get to Josh, but I hear people comparing Jordan Love to Josh Allen. Is that just a size comparison, or?
I think they both throw the ball well, and they're both athletic, but they're not the same size. I'd say that. Not in terms of predicting success, but the comp, I think, for Jordan is probably more Patrick. Similar size, similar build, similar athletic ability. Not the same arm strength, but right there. So for Jordan, I would say him.
So give us the latest on what Josh Allen's been working on. I mean, it's by his schedule. I mean, right? He comes in and. And you guys map it out as you go through this offseason?
Well, first, I know that there was a lot of talk about the struggle with the deep ball, and so we've just been playing with just when you throw it deep, let's go lefty. Let's just go left-handed and just chuck it and see if we can develop a touch ball with it. So, no, I think what we start with is just the areas of start with getting back to your foundation. So at the end of anybody's season, whether that's a draft guy coming to me, at the end of his college season, or it's an NFL guy showing up after he just took a break after his season, I think Joe and Josh both kind of finished their seasons around the same week or so, I think the championship was the 13th. I think Josh's Houston game was somewhere around
4th
there.
or 5th of January.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So you take the time off that you need to take off. And then what happens, though, is when you get to the end of the season, you're not in the best shape you've been in. It's hard to stay in shape during the season. And you've had so much stuff around your feet that guys play on their toes. Whatever their bad habits were, they got
accentuated.
Yeah, accentuated. They're fading away from throws a lot just because they've been playing games. They got people falling around them. They're fading away and all that. So one of the first things we do is get back to just the basics and foundation, right? Do a lot of stuff. I had Josh for a week before we even started throwing balls. Just footwork, just getting the base, getting all your cleats in the ground, getting, in terms of establishing a base, I don't think it's shoulder width or some specific distance. I just say jump up in the air and land. When you land from falling out of the sky, that's your body's most athletic position. That's your base. Everyone has a little different one. And so really in the beginning, it's just getting that going. Started throwing 1 day a week. Then we're at 2 days a week. He does not need to be ready by March 15th. Right. You know what I mean? It's a marathon. And I learned this. So when I backed up my brother in Cincinnati, we would train together all off season, January, February, March, but we would be at very different points. I, as a backup trying to make the team, needed to be peaking in OTAs.
Right.
He would start touching a football in OTAs.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's lazy. It just means he's on a different plan.
Different schedule, yeah.
Yeah. And so, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Kyle Allen, Jarrett Stidham, these guys that are all out there right now, they're on a different plan. And so it starts, 1, with laying the foundation, and then 2, trying to figure out from a biomechanics standpoint and the way that the body's connecting, what led to the issues that you did have. And so we're playing with a bunch of stuff right now.
With Jordan Palmer, who works as a quarterback consultant for Josh Allen. Josh and the deep ball. And I may be wrong about this, but my perception is in his rookie year, 2 seasons ago, Josh was okay throwing the deep ball, and he kind of got away from him last year. Am I wrong about that?
Well, I think everybody has, some throws they want back, and most quarterbacks, it's the same type of throw they want back, whether they always miss shallow crosses or they threw slants really low or they overthrew deep balls, and it's just it's common for everybody. I mean, I talk to a lot of vets, whether I work with them or not. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think I need to work on? And there's kind of like, if you look at like a heat map, there's misses all over the place, right? But then there's just kind of like a grouping in 1 or 2 areas. And so with Josh, I would say the deep ball is an area to improve. Now, the thing about a deep ball is it is absolutely a 2-person deal, right? And so a lot of it is feel and what you're seeing and what they're doing. And I'm putting none. Josh certainly puts 0 blame on anybody else. I'm not putting any words in his mouth. But I do think the feel that you have to throwing with guys is a piece of that. Because what he's not doing is throwing it at a target 45 yards away and missing the target. He's throwing it to a moving object, and they all move differently. And so the other thing is when you think about deep balls, it's the fans who are looking at it from the fan perspective are going, ooh, that open one that he overthrew. And I don't even have one in mind, but assuming that happened. But deep balls don't have to get completed because somebody ran by the defender and he's open and you hit him in stride. High point, a ball being slightly, to a fan's perspective, slightly underthrown, but with enough trajectory where the receiver can put 2 feet in the ground, go up with 2 hands, that's a higher percentage completion throw, higher completion percentage throw. And so I look at it and I go, let's solve for like the misses, but also how do we develop this side of the deep ball game? How do you put guys in a position to go up and make a play more consistently? And better yet, how do they know that that's coming so that they can, at the last second, set that up better? So that's why, it really is a 2-way thing. It's got to be a thing that you do with your guys, which he's clearly going to be doing, and he's going to see a big improvement. Last offseason, the theme was anticipation, throwing guys open. And I think he took major strides in that area. And so when I think about Josh Allen and the deep ball, it's like, yeah, he'll solve it. There's a couple things we're going to do. There's a bunch of things that Ken and the guys are going to do out in Buffalo, and I think it'll probably be a strong suit for him.
How many times we said that? The one thing about Josh, after 2 years, you can say is when he works on something, he usually gets better.
He's ahead of where I thought he'd be right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? And I was chirping all draft and telling everybody how awesome this guy's going to be. But with that being said, because what's interesting about Josh is he never took over and dominated and won a single game at Wyoming. He never just rushed for 150 yards, threw for 250, and beat the other team. So the question mark was always, is he going to be a gamer? Like, is he, okay, you got the Wyoming, the issues there and the competition and this and that. And so it was hard for teams to really figure out, like, does this actually translate? Does him throwing the ball that hard translate? And what he's proven is it does more than translate. He's getting really good at winning games, managing the clock, managing situation football, completing balls that need to be completed, making plays that weren't there, and he's played 1 year, I would say, or a year and a half.
So there is an art, not science, to it. I mean, you talk to quarterback coaches like yourself. A lot of it they do break into the technical jargon, your hip, your displacement, your body, and your arm motion, and all that stuff. But it is when you start to throw the ball deep, it is a little bit about a relationship, and it becomes an art form between two guys trying to extend their relationship with this long ball, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it does become a little bit more art. And for that reason, it's a little more mental. So, what do you work on his mindset? Do you give him there's a psychological coaching point to throwing deep balls. So one of the things that I do with guys is I use the analogy of I want to drop a pin on Google Maps. Okay? I want to tell him where to go with this throw. So I got a guy running a post, and he's open. The coverage dictates that the post is going to be there, and I'm taking a hitch, and I'm getting ready to throw the post. What I try and get guys away from is throwing it out in front of the guy or leading the guy. You are the one who's looking downfield. This guy's running full speed looking back at you. You're the one that sees the field. Tell him where to go with the ball. Meaning, if he's running at this angle and there's an area open over here, tell him where to go with the ball. Drop a pin. Meet me right here. That's not a mechanical thing. That's a psychological thing. Right. So I always put 1, 2, or 3 word sentences in guys' heads so that they can remind themselves immediately. And so drop a pin is a theme this offseason. Just thinking about telling him where to go with the ball. On the mechanical side of things, look, your spine angle changes when you tilt your axis to go throw, right? It leans back. Your spine goes back.
And so how does the body work where – because Josh, it's never about getting more. It's about controlling what he has. He's so powerful. He's got the strongest arm I've ever been around. So it's kind of almost like, how do we build a governor for this engine, right? That's going to make you better on this track where you can't really go full speed. You'll get out of control at the turn. So I think with Josh, it's not about creating more. It's about controlling what he has. And so much of it his whole life has been about throwing the ball hard. And for the last couple of years, when you get to the NFL, you realize that you don't throw the ball as hard as you can that often, especially when you have an arm like him. Right. And so, somebody breaks open down the field, you chuck it deep. But curl routes, digs, he did a fantastic job of just layering digs in this year. Throwing catchable. For a big arm guy, he's not a one-pitch guy. People don't sit there and go, hey, he throws the ball too hard all the time. Right. They do with a lot of other players, right? But you don't with Josh. And so controlling that deep ball, part of it is psychological and part of it is the mechanical side.
Hey, Jordan, you look at stats, and in his second year, his completion percentage went from, 53% to 58%. Touchdowns to interceptions ratio, 20-9 in his second year. Are those meaningful to you as you analyze his performance last year?
Absolutely. It's hard to judge quarterbacks on stats because it really is a team deal, right? Like, if he led the league in drops, then you can't really – somebody leads the league in drops. You can't really fault them for the completion percentage because some of that had nothing to do with them. And touchdown to interceptions, how often did they go out of bounds at the 1? And you know what I mean? How many screens went to the house? So it's not these numbers improved, boy, he must be improved. But they are indicators. They're definitely indicators. If he would have thrown 38 touchdowns and 20 picks, I don't know that that's better.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why you talk about the ratio. It literally is a ratio, one number divided by another. Sure. So I think those are indicators of improved success, and I think he's just from the guy watching TV on the couch, not missing any Bills games. It seems like he's way more control with the offense and comfortable, and I can't say enough for the staff. I mean, Brian Daboll, Ken Dorsey. I mean, he's just got great resources. Matt Barkley behind him. He's just got great people around him right now.
He's ahead of where you thought he would be.
Yeah.
What's put your cap on and try and look down the future 12 months, and you look back at the 2020 season for Josh. Where are some things? How are you going to quantify where he's gotten better next? What's going to happen next for Josh Allen in his progress?
Well, I'd look at the completion percentage on balls, but beyond 25, 30 yards. I think that'll be a big improvement. I would assume there's opportunities to, add personnel like they did last offseason. I think Brandon did a fantastic job with Beasley and drafting Singletary and Frank and these different guys and Smokey. And so I think, they've proven that they're going to continue to put great pieces around there. And I think Brandon and his team are doing an amazing job. Not that my opinion matters, but I'm a fan. And so I would look for him to be, as a deep ball thrower. I think he's going to move to probably one of the top 10 guys in the league next year. I don't want to create expectations, but I just see, you identify a problem, you give him a plan, and then, the result's always awesome. So that's a pattern to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not luck. That's not talent. That's just a pattern of a guy he showed up out in California, and anybody who follows him on Instagram looks like he's having a blast. He is. This dude's working his tail off right away, nonstop, dead focused on trying to be great. He wants to win a Super Bowl next year.
Jordan, the last question I have for you is how often and what type of communication do you have with Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey and the Bills? How often do you got to get with them, and how often do you keep up with them on what you're doing with Josh?
Yeah, we get a chance to connect every now and then, and for me, I'm trying to stay in my lane, right? So this isn't my client, and I'm going to do what I want with him. I want to, and the thing too is with Josh is he knows what they want him to do. So it's not a thing where I have to check in with the coaches because Josh knows what they want him to do. I'm going to help Josh in a time period where the coaches can't work with him to do what the coaches would do with him if they could. Right. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This isn't something where I have this philosophy and I'm going to get you better and tell your coaches what we're doing. This is, what have you guys talked about? How can I help supplement that? Yeah. Sometimes that's just a place to throw and work on the thing that you want to work on. Right. I don't talk for 2 hours straight when we're on the field. I want these guys, self-correction is such a key piece for these guys becoming franchise guys.
Right. Jordan, thanks. Great to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me, man. I love
your time.
I believe this during the draft process that Josh is just so Buffalo. I don't know if any people know this, but Buffalo's the biggest city he's ever lived in.
Yeah.
Say that about
bigger than what's it? Fireball? Where's he from?
Fireball to Laramie.
Yeah. Okay.
Think about that, right?
Yeah,
and so you got a quarter Buffalo. Anybody who's listening, you guys have a guy who wants to be there. He is not trying thinking about anything other than being a Buffalo Bill for the rest of his life. And this dude is so fired up to be there. He loves it, the Bills Mafia thing. It is just one of the all-time great fits between a city and a player, and I'm just fired up for him.
We're fired up about him, too.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yep.
Jordan Palmer, Quarterback Summit in Southern California.